Hello everyone, it's Painty Creator. So I thought we'd go to the beach today. So I've just masked out this parasol, and it's based upon a really short reel that I saw from a Daniel Smith's artist brand ambassador Alison Pinto on Facebook. She did a really short fun sort of summer take, but she didn't mask out the parasol. She worked around it, and I find that quite difficult sometimes. So I thought it was easier to just mask out the parasol and let it dry. So obviously I've used an old brush with my masking fluid. You can see there's masking fluid still getting clogged in here. When you're using masking fluid, and I've used this masking fluid, this Winsor & Newton one today, put some liquid soap on your brush to protect it and wash it out straight away, and don't use your best brushes. I think this one came with a little kids water set at some point, but it's important to let the masking fluid dry totally for itself before setting out. So a bit of a nice bright summer's day. So I'm going to start off, and I'm going to spritz my page with a little spritzer bottle. I'm using my usual Winsor & Newton Cotman watercolour set, but you can use any watercolours. I'm using my medium mop brushes, but again, any brush. And I'm just going to take some Ultramarine Blue into my palette, and I'm going for that really nice sort of soft blue sky. So nice amount of paint on my paper. Once the paper's damp, you can work with it. Wash my brush, take a little bit of the water out, and then just work up from the horizon into there, and then down, and it just spreads it out. If you look at a horizon line at any point, you will see that the sky is darker at the top and more saturated, and lighter towards the horizon. So we're trying to sort of remember that and capture that, but not getting too involved with it. So that's the sky done. You could lift out some clouds if you want, but it's a nice bright blue sort of day. So I'm going to carry on with that ultramarine as my main colour for the sea, because the sea does quite often reflect the sky. And I'm just going to add a little bit of sap green or hooker's green into it. I think this is sap green, and that's going to make it a really nice turquoisey colour. So that's the same blue tone, but in a nice turquoise colour. Again, make your sea do whatever you want. There we go, nice turquoisey colour. And the sea is normally add a little bit more blue into that mix for now. The sea is normally, again, darker on the horizon, and because I've masked out the umbrella, the parasol, I can just work into the ocean. Just add a little bit of Vermillion Blue into there now. working damp into damp, wet into wet. I'm just bringing it forward, so I'm just going to add a little bit of water into that mix, take the excess off on my paper towel, just lightening it up, dropping some of that darker tones through it, so it's quite a relaxed sort of nice bit of sea. So moving towards the sort of more spray, so I'm just going to trying to get a bit of an uneven edge on there. I'm just going to put the base of the waves into there. Just going to add a little bit more green into that to make a bit of contrast. And I'm going to add a little bit of indigo into there as well, just to darken it. Let's stay in that sort of blue tone. Even darker. There we go. Right under the foam bits. Bit of indigo in the sea. Okay. So while that's drying, I'm going to mix up some raw umber. That water mix, and I'm just going to drop that in, push it into the base of that mix. Pick up some of this water with my brush. A bit more raw umber. A little bit of yellow ochre in there as well. Just want to disturb the base of that harder line. So I'm just dropping in some raw umber and a little bit of indigo in the mix in the foreground, just for a little bit of interest, really. It's got that sort of bit of a damp sort of feel. Careful for no puddling, and just whilst it's damp, I'm just going to get my Dr. Martens white bleed proof, and I'm just going to pop on straight from the jar a a little bit of foam. And I am going to get my spritzer bottle on it in a minute to just keep it moving. You can just use some gouache, white gouache would work. If you haven't got any white gouache, you could try some white acrylic. I'm just going to get my spritzer bottle and just soften it off a little bit. So that sort of ease the chaos. And just encourage it with a little bit of water to just flow. Because actually, if you can get it to flow, you can get that sort of sense of movement. So nice. And the best thing to do is to let that dry. Just drop in a few whiter bits up here. So I'm going to just let that dry. I'm probably going to just take some of that paint residue off here. Paper towel, damp brush. Just cause otherwise it takes ages for that to dry. And I don't want that running back into the painting. Careful not to rub because otherwise you'll lift it. And I'm just watching for some of these puddles, but I think that's quite nice. So whilst I'm waiting to dry, we're going to mix up a nice sort of shadow colour. So a bit of ultramarine and some alizarin crimson. Into a nice bright shadow colour. I'm just connecting to the base of that parasol. I'm putting the first wash of this shadow on whilst it's damp. So you know where to put your so you know where to put your towel or your deck chair or whatever you brought to the beach. And normally shadows are a bit multifaceted, so I'm just going to add a little bit of yellow ochre into that mix. I'm just going to drop some different colours in. It's quite watery. I'm just going to lift it flat ultramarine in it. But letting it just do its thing on the paper, and it'll make a really nice shadow. All that, so be patient. Let this all dry, and then when it's dry we can gently rub off the parasol and paint in the parasol. So here we are. I've let it dry. I like this little shadow, and I love this sort of that sense of movement in the water. I've rubbed off the masking fluid. Quite often you get little bits underneath that have gone through when you've not masked out properly, but that's fine. It's a bit of fun. So I'm going to mix up some bright red for me. So this is Vermillion Red, and I'm just using my mop brush at the moment just to get the water going. I'm going to mix quite a big puddle of it because I want it to all have the same sort of hue, the same colour with it. And then I'm going to use my small mop brush, I think, to paint the stripes. So just taking some of that off, and I'm going to paint the stripes across the parasol, keeping a sort of sense of the direction of the movement. And as with most things, it doesn't have to be bob on, and as it goes up into the parasol, you're going to get smaller and closer together, and then picking up this little bead, following across, picking up that bead, following across. Oops, the daisy didn't get the curve I wanted there. I'm going to put that back on. And then same again this side. Oops. And this final side. I'm going to just put one across the bottom here. There we go. So I've got sort of first wash of colour, which I quite like on there. So I need a shadow colour, a nice bright shadow colour. So again, I'm going for alizarin crimson and a touch of ultramarine blue, touch more, as the shadow colour. Makes a really nice bright shadow colour for such a bright day. So we've got a shadow down this side. Oops, there we go. And a little bit of a shadow down here. And a little bit of a shadow down there. Just to create that sort of sense of things dipping away. And then I'm going to just add a little bit of shadow colour on some of these waves. Soften it away with a damp brush. There we go. And then maybe, I don't know, we could have a little bit more of a brown for the pole. So a little bit of burnt umber for this pole. Down on the shadow side of that. And that's just a little bit of a lot of beach fun. I'm going to just add some seagulls. Just using a little bit of Payne's grey into that. Because most of my paintings, particularly sea paintings, have got seabirds in. And there we have it, a really simple parasol on the beach. So darken this space there, push it into the existing wash, plenty of water. There we are, a little day out on the beach. So I hope you've enjoyed that one. Have fun, and I'll see you soon. Like, subscribe, you know the rest.